Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hey Joe Show. It is Sunday night and it is time to rock and roll. So we're bringing you a heads up hot shot show tonight, folks.
Okay.
Do you like that? I was trying to slip into my radio DJ voice.
That was just weird.
Well, I hear that's how radio DJs talk. And so I wanted to slip into the radio DJ voice.
Hey, Ruben.
That's not the case. Hey, Ruben. We are glad to be with you tonight.
Jonathan.
Of course, we come to you
Just to say hi to everybody.
wanting to give props, of course, to the folks over at the lightnetwork.tv. If you have yet to check them out, we want to encourage you to do that, please, sooner than later, because you will find a family of podcasts that you will enjoy. And, of course, always, we want to thank you for tuning in to the Hey Joe Show. And invite you to check us out at Facebook. Check us out on the internet, publications. Check out our channel there. We are actually launching into that. We're not broadcasting to YouTube tonight because I've got a few things that I need to figure out.
Some kinks that need to be smooth.
That's right. We got to smooth out a few things, but we're glad to be with you live here on Facebook. And so, Erin, we talked about what we were going to talk about, and of course, I do want to say this.
About what we're going to talk about. I love that.
Yeah.
Talk about what we're going to talk about.
I do want to start tonight, obviously, expressing our condolences to the congregation in British Columbia, in Canada, where the shooting was occurred today. Some of you may not have heard that. Some of you may have, and we decided that we were not going to address that tonight as a whole, as a show, but I did want to make sure that you pray for the family there where there was a shooting. My understanding is there were two individuals that were shot. One was targeted, one was shot. I guess you could say because he was in the way, is the way the article said it that I read, but the gentleman that was targeted was one of the elders there. From what I understand, he was a man that helped children, young people that had mental disabilities. He had fostered some people, in their homes and whatnot. Whether or not that's attached to this, I do not know, but all of that came from an article where his son was quoted. So we just want to make sure that you all add this good congregation to your prayers, and especially this family tonight. We hate any time that there is news of a shooting like this, and of course, as it happens within the Churches of Christ, that is an issue as well for us that hits really close to home. So we're going to keep them in our prayers, Erin. That's what we're going to do tonight, and continue to pray for them. So the show, while it's not on that particular subject, we are going to continue with the concept of being intentional. And it's hard to believe that the show... That's our theme.
Overarching theme.
That's right.
Season.
That is our theme, and it's hard to believe that eventually that this season will be over. I don't even know how many more weeks are in the season. Do you know how many more weeks?
I would have to go back and count.
I do not know. I'd have to go back and count as well. So I do know this, though.
I just lose count. We're having so much fun.
Yeah. Well, and of course, we're going to finish out this theme the best that we can. So we are always interested in taking requests, submissions for ideas for themes for future season.
Sometimes, I know as crazy and as hard as this is to believe, but sometimes Joe and I run out of ideas.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
I mean,
I don't know if I would even admit that, because I've got plenty of ideas. They're not all good.
But just
out of good ideas, maybe would be the way to put that.
What's a better way I could put this? Yeah, I can't get out of this hole that I've dug.
What she's trying to say, folks, is we're open to your submission and suggestions.
Yes, because it's all the better when we work together.
That's right. What do you want to hear? What do you want to hear? What's on your heart? What's on your mind? What are some key areas for families and being faithful in with families? And so that's what we want to talk about. What are some top teen issues? I've thought about that. Top teen issues in culture. and every night deal with
No, not
a
be
top,
top
teen.
10, but top teen.
No, top teen. That's right. Hey, Jonathan Exum's already submitted one
Look at
entitled
him. You
Overcome.
go. I like that.
I tell you what, that sounds like a sermon series right there, man. So,
Oh, Kathy Lindenberger says, good evening from Canton, Ohio.
hey, we got
Good evening,
Ohio
Kathy.
coming. Thank you for tuning in. So tonight, in dealing with the theme of intentional, Erin and I would like to discuss the concept of being intentional
Drum roll.
when it comes to
That's a bad drum roll.
finances.
Finances, because tomorrow is
Tax
Tax
day.
day.
Yay. Aren't you
Wah,
excited
wah,
about that?
wah.
I mean, I know everybody just wakes up tomorrow and it's almost like Christmas morning, right? The anticipation of being able to turn in those taxes,
just
write
like
the check.
just like Christmas morning. Let me tell you.
Let me tell you this. It is a beautiful thing that we live in a country where we have the privilege to pay a tax. Isn't that what we're supposed to say, right? No, it is a blessing to be in a country.
Speaking of a country where, we have to do things like pay taxes, someone said, how about a show on how to be a leader? And our country that we pay taxes to has leaders. That makes us pay taxes. So, see, there you go.
Well, you segued that one.
right into that
That
one.
was an interesting segue
that was
right there.
not a smooth segue, but hey, I tried.
Hey, I love the idea. So maybe a podcast on leadership or a season on leadership and what that means.
Man, we have our next 2 seasons already lined up, Joe.
That's right.
High
That's right.
fives.
Boom.
Whoa.
That's right. So we're glad. So go ahead and continue to send them in. Somebody, Robert, it looks like, said the teens that I teach on Wednesday nights, and your comment just left. So
Are really engaging when talking about moral issues. See?
yeah,
That's what I'm here for.
I think that might be an interesting theme as well.
Oh,
So-
good evening, Robert. He says good evening
From New York. I saw that. Very good. We're glad to have the Youngs with us. So let's get on with the show,
Okay.
dealing with the subject of being intentional financially. Okay. So now here's where I guess probably am not the best one to deal with on this particular subject, right?
You've gotten better, Joe. You've gotten better.
We all have a pill. We got to swallow it. This is one of mine, okay? Because when we got married, let's just be real, I was nothing. I don't even know if I was in the category of good in any way financially. I wasn't buying things I shouldn't have bought, but I wasn't managing well. Be careful. Be careful.
I'm just going to not say much.
No, go ahead. It was obviously one of those situations that I have had to learn because part of what we dealt with was differences of growing up. I don't know how else to say that.
We grew up very, very differently when it came to finances.
Yeah, we did, and I don't necessarily believe that is uncommon when people get married, that they have different backgrounds. And nor do I think that everybody's going to come on the same page when it comes to the way that everybody deals with finances.
Right.
However, I had to learn some things, and I would like to think that Erin had to learn some things.
A few. You had to learn a lot of
If there is somebody who's more tight with
finances.
money,
Finances.
if there's somebody who's more tight with money and somebody who's more loose with money, I would probably fall in the more loose category, at least in the early days of our marriage.
I would probably put you in irresponsible with finances category.
Well, I don't know if I like that, so let's
I
not
know
say
you
that.
don't like it, but let's call the spade, Joe.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Everyone thinks I'm going to be so mean. Okay,
That's
we
right.
were.
So-
No, I'm not. He has said for years he was terrible. So
Yeah.
he lets me pick on him about this. Polar opposites.
So I can admit that.
Absolutely, polar
I can admit
opposite.
that. But I would say this, that in the marriage, in the family, that Erin has traditionally been more tight when it comes to money.
Spending.
Yeah, spending typically.
Or, yeah.
It depends. It depends
Well-
really if it's something that you're passionate about. I mean, let's be real. We will spend where we place value, right?
Yes, but I still look for the deal.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. I mean, if we eat a certain way, take certain supplements, have certain lifestyle,
Then I shop
then
to sell.
in those areas, though, we will spend more than we could have in
to
other
save in
areas.
other areas, though.
Right.
For instance, you eat better, you take better care of your health, you spend less on medical bills, which has been our case.
Okay, so I guess the first point when it comes to being intentional financially is this, and it's interesting on this particular site that I'm looking at, it says that we got to determine our values.
Yes. Okay. So that
And
makes
so,
sense with what we're talking
In
about.
order to live intentionally with money, you've got to determine your values, right?
Right.
What are the most valuable things? Because believe it or not, living a life with intentional concepts with finances, it actually is a reflection of value. What do you value?
Okay.
In other words, if I really value my hobbies, then my spending will show that.
Well, yes.
If I really value, say, physical fitness, then I might have a gym membership. If I really value eating healthy, then my grocery bill will reflect that. If I value giving to missionaries or to preaching school students, then my budget should reflect that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so here's the deal. The question then is, what do I value? And that's
that's
important.
an individual question for everybody to ask themselves.
Right. We can't answer that for everybody, but it is one of those things that if you want to live intentionally financially, that you really do need to be intentional with your values. So it would look like this.
Okay, but I would even back the truck up even more, because I would say before all that, you have to determine, do you value being financially responsible? Do you value even knowing how much money is in your account and what you've been spending versus what's been going in? That in itself, I mean, it seems common, or what, common is not the right word I'm looking for. That seems, I don't want to say logical, because
then you just put everybody who doesn't do that in an illogical box. Thank you
Right.
for isolating at
So
least a
I'm
third of our
looking for
audience.
the right Joe.
Okay, your co-host.
Okay, I'm trying to think of the word. I mean, it seems, what's the word I'm looking for, Joe? Help your co-host out here.
Let's see. What are you trying to say? It seems like it should go without saying.
There we go. It seems like it should go without saying that you should know how much is going in your account and how much is coming out of your account. But some people don't always.
Some people operate on that don't spend more than my check is. But the problem is what happens when things get drafted and your check doesn't cover it, and then it starts bouncing. And that's just another story at another time.
Nobody in the studio knows anything about that. Years
No.
ago, years ago, come a long way.
Do you realize, seriously,
long way.
that was
long way.
Not 30.
No.
20-something years
19.
ago.
Okay, so
Wow.
the point is, though, that I think
How did I age so gracefully? Seriously, I mean, look at me.
yeah, I'm looking at you. Okay. So, but the point is, because I don't even know what we are talking about earlier now.
I know, I
I'm
got
just
you distracted
talking
because I
and
said, look
I know
at me.
you said look at you,
You're
and
like,
I'm just, I don't know
he's
what to
good
do.
looking. He aged well.
All right, Joe. Focus.
Sorry. I'm focused. Okay,
So
I'm in.
I think you need to, speaking of focus on where your money, you're in and out of where it's going, what's going in, what's coming out. So first of all, you have to be able to value that. Because what were you talking about before I said
We
you
were
had to
talking
back
about
the truck up?
that your spending reflects your values, so therefore you need to clarify what you value.
That's correct.
So if I value giving to the Lord's church, then that's
right. But before you
that
can even
plays into this. But what you're saying
you
is
value, you've got to make sure you value knowing what's in your account if you have the money to spend.
okay. So
Which
being
segues
informed.
into another informed. Yes, intentionally informed. But hang on, we had another comment. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, because someone did say they recommend Dave Ramsey. Of course, that's a whole nother.
Can we say that without? Do we have to pay him now that we said that?
I don't know.
I'm just teasing. We're not that big.
I don't know. Yeah.
He will be so happy that we gave him a shout out.
And you know what? Actually, we have we actually have loosely followed his plan for years and years and years. Not to the T, because there's a few things that work better for us in a different way. But okay, that's good for now.
Is that where you were going?
Well, I was just trying to read the comments, but there's a really long one that I feel like I need to read it myself and process before I try and read it out loud.
Then that's good. Then by all means. See, a lot of you don't know. Those of you who are not watching this live, you do not realize that Erin kind of is I don't even know what to say. You kind of
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Process the comments because I don't see them unless they come up on the iPad. But she's on the computer, and so that's why your comments come through to her.
Can I say who the quote's from?
Sure.
Dave Ramsey again.
We are just blessing his life tonight.
Look at you. It says, this is a quote from him that our friend Jonathan put up. He said, it says, winning at money is 80% behavior and 20% head knowledge. What to do isn't the problem, doing it is. Most of us know what to do, but we just don't do it. If I can control the guy in the mirror, I can be skinny and rich.
Is that my problem? Is that why I'm not rich?
I was going to say something, but
I bet you were. You behave over there,
Okay,
please.
so no, he has a lot of great things to say and got a lot of good financial advice. There's a lot of good financial advisors that are out there
Yeah.
if you're looking for programs. But since we're
So
not
back
dealing
to being
particularly
intentional
with
financially.
programs,
Right.
we're
We're not
talking
doing
more
that. So
about
here's the deal. So
intentionality.
know
So,
what's coming in and out. You got to even have a desire to be informed, right?
well, and I would say this
And that
too.
couples with your values, because I think when you see what's going in and out, it will be an honest evaluation. See, I would offer this to you, that what Erin is saying and what I brought to the table in determining values, and what she said is, before that you need to even be informed and have a desire to be informed, that there has to be honest evaluation. So many times we talk about what we need to be doing to be intentional, but do we ever back up and say, how am I doing currently? In other words, am I being intentional now? And one of the ways that you're going to see that is by measuring the way that you're spending now. Where's your money going now as compared to what you say you value? Because what you may find out is that what you say you value is not reflected in the way you spend.
Right.
And that can be kind of interesting and eye opening and humbling at the same time.
Right. Because if you say you value giving to missionaries, but you're never giving to missionaries.
Or if you're giving to missionaries is like 1%. I mean, I'm not bashing any of that. Obviously, missionaries would love anything.
Right.
But for me to say I value supporting missionaries as my number one, yet it ends up on my number 20 on where I spend the money, I'm not real sure that what you say you value is what you value.
Right.
Now, I know that's bold and not necessarily real popular, but the truth is that is revealing. And so we've got to start with an honest evaluation. Number two, though, I would say this, that in order to live intentionally, you've got to set goals so you know where you're going. It has been said before that if you launch out on a trip, but you do not have a destination, that you are bound to get there every time. The problem is you don't know where there is, right? You may start off on a trip and end up in some place that you had no clue where you were going. And at the end of the day, somebody asks, hey, did you get there? You say, yeah, where's there? It's where we are right now, right? So the idea with being intentional is that you set financial goals. And it's
Right.
okay, and I would offer this to you. Those financial goals do not need to be set later in life when you have money. I would encourage parents of teenagers to begin instilling within your teen financial goal setting, because the earlier you do that, the better they're going to be in life. And I'll give you a for instance. I obviously we didn't know a lot. I knew less.
Wait. When you say we didn't know a lot, who are you
Getting
speaking of?
married, I'm saying we as a married couple, I didn't know about like disability insurance and things on those lines. And we had an
Okay.
individual sit down and talk with us about the importance of starting early with a disability concept. Because the earlier you start, you lock the rate in. And so a 22-year-old guy locks the rate in at the health of a 22-year-old guy versus somebody who's 55 and now all of a sudden they decide they need to get disability insurance. Well, your rate is going to be different, right?
Right.
So I am grateful that somebody sat down with us and talked to us about the importance of beginning early. Now, since we've blessed Dave Ramsey throughout the show, we're going to continue to bless him with our audience and giving a shout out because of how large our we are. But the idea is,
And then we woke up from our dream.
oh yeah. But the idea behind that is this: he even advocates, and I agree. When you figure out compounding interest, and you figure out the power of compounding interest, that the earlier in life that you invest, and if you invest in something with compounding interest, then the truth is that if you start at 18 and you invest until you're, I don't know what the real number is, 30, then that will actually gain more income than if I start at 30 and I invest until I'm 65. The earlier you start, the better it's going to be. Now, here's all of that, right? Sometimes we think, well, my kids are not old enough to start having the conversation about financial goals. I would disagree with that. I think that to discuss that early is actually to bless them in life and to teach good stewardship.
And why do you feel that way exactly?
Because
Inquiring minds.
well,
Want to know. I'm not
here's
saying I
my
disagree. I'm playing.
here's my why. Do we believe that stewardship is a biblical concept? And if stewardship is a biblical concept, why would we ever hold that back from somebody who's old enough to understand it? Would we hold back a discussion of baptism? Would we hold back a discussion of repentance? Would we hold back a discussion of the Lord's church? Would we hold back a discussion on grace, faith, mercy? I mean, you name it. Would we hold any of that back? And sometimes we would say no, because at their age they need it. But then we talk about stewardship only to adults. And I guess what I'm saying is this: if we really believe it's a biblical principle and a spiritual discipline, then why are we not going ahead and talking about that to young people as they enter the age of financial management?
Agreed.
And approach their shaping years of family and of spending? I guess what I'm saying is start that conversation earlier in life.
Right, because I think at a very young age, they need to start setting aside money to give back as well when they start making their own paychecks.
Absolutely. So, financial goals, and it's not just for teens, so it's also for adults, right? So, let's say that
Correct.
you and I, let's say that we had a sit down and we talked and we said, what are our financial goals? Now, we've done this in some areas of life, and at times we have, and then it's just a matter of working the plan, which is actually the third point, which is
Oh,
you've
I
got
wouldn't. I
to,
don't even know the third point.
I
This
know
is
it's
exciting.
exciting. You've got to set a goal, and then
Okay.
you've got to work a plan to get to the goal, right?
Okay.
So I would say that we're probably in the work the plan to get to the goal phase, that we've sat down with goals, but it's not bad to reevaluate goals. Because let's say your goal is, you know what, after we've had our evaluation, we recognize that we're really not giving financially to the church like we should. You say, what do you mean like you should? Do you guys believe that there's a number you should hit? No. But when I say like we should, it's like, are we really showing that giving to the work of the Lord is a priority in our life? Or what if we said this, you know, we value mission work or we value preaching students. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase our giving to missionaries or preaching students.
Which is a little side note right there. A lot of people don't realize, at least I don't think a lot of people realize, I may be wrong about this, that a lot of times preaching students going to school full time can't hold down a job. And so they have to have support to be able to get by while they're learning how to become ministers.
Yeah, and that's a very valuable thing, and something that probably does.
That could be probably a whole nother show,
It
but
probably is, and one that I would say this, for those of you who value the preaching of the gospel, you may want to consider what it means to support a student who wants to go to a school of preaching.
there's plenty of great ones out there.
Yeah, they're 2-year intensive studies. Oftentimes, these preaching students are in classes 8 hours a day, and then they turn around and have multiple hours of homework every night. They can't hold down jobs, and so the reality is they need support. So I guess what I'm saying is this: you got to come up with your financial goals.
Right.
What is your goal retirement wise? What is your goal for your children's college, if that be something? What are your
Are you going to help
goals?
them with it? Are you not?
Right.
You're going to do partial?
Right.
Are you?
And I would even say this: what are your goals when it comes to teaching your children financial management? Is that going to include an allowance? Is it going to include working and therefore you pay them for the chores that they've done?
Commission.
Is it going to be where it's just a given that they go and have some sort of job at a certain age? I mean, all of this are things that play into your financial goals, but then you got to be able to work the plan
Work
to
the
get to
plan.
the goal. Now, that's the hard part, right? Everybody likes to dream, but very few people know how to make the dreams become realities, right? So here's the deal. Along the way, you've got to be committed. Living intentionally concerning the topic of finances, it is a commitment, because the truth is, man, it would be
It's
nice.
like another job.
It would be nice to get a new car. It would be so nice to buy a new couch. It would be nice to get a new TV. It would be nice to go on that great vacation, right?
Yes, yes.
But-
Vacations are wonderful. You
but-
build memories.
But here's the deal, though. Unless it fits in the plan, you need
Then
to
it
not
doesn't fit in the
veer out of the
plan.
plan, or you need to go back and reestablish the goals. Because if you have goals and you have a plan, but you don't work the plan because something comes up all the time, and here's the truth, you need to have something within your plan to deal with what comes up. But I'm not talking about, hey, we just want a new car because we're bored with our old one. I'm talking, hey, the
So this
transmission
would
went
this be a
out.
bad time to tell you I want another car because
It
I'm
would
bored?
be
No, I'm just
horrible.
kidding. I'm kidding.
The idea would be if the transmission drops out of the car and you've got to get that replaced, that is not a I want a new car thing. That is a did we plan for things like this to happen within our financial goals? Some individuals that we will not say because we've given them enough credit will call that an emergency fund. Does your financial plan have an
I
emergency
call that an
fund?
emergency fund.
I
Fund.
know you do.
Fun.
It's not fun. Tell the person who got to empty their emergency fund, right?
That it was
It's
really
not
great.
fun. But last, I would say
Wah,
this:
wah.
it's
Okay,
as
wait,
your
let's recap our points again.
okay. Go.
I'm trying to remember. I'm having so much fun. I totally forgot our points.
Hey, that's awesome. You're having fun on the show. Go ahead.
Seriously, I don't remember our points. This is terrible.
I just have to stop and recognize you're having fun on the show.
I
I just
always
want
have fun
to
on
soak
the show.
that up. Go right ahead.
What, you want me to tell you again? I'm having fun on the
No,
show.
I want you to tell me that first and foremost, you even have to care where your money's going.
Okay. The point number one is you have to care where your money is
All right,
going.
let's see this, folks. Go ahead. What's point number 2?
You need to
What
be
are your
intentional.
values? No. What are your values?
Values.
You
have to care
failed
about.
the test.
Yes. Okay. Wait a minute. Then it's not you have to care about. You have to pay attention to your money flow in and out.
And then
And
evaluate
then
your
you have to
values.
evaluate your values, and then you need to go over your
See
plan.
if they measure
plan,
Create financial goals.
Work the plan.
And then work the plan.
See, look at me. I got
Good-
this.
You're awesome. You pay such good attention, and we've only been going for a little over 20 minutes. Actually,
Okay.
you really are paying good attention. I appreciate that tonight. So, anyhow, the last thing is this. You got to be able to track and evaluate your progress. So along the way, it's not enough just to set goals and then to have a plan and to work the plan. You need to evaluate whether those goals are still fitting with the overall direction of your family. And that's intentional. I intentionally set down to evaluate my goals
All this takes time.
and commitment. Absolutely, it does. So, which that means this, that in order to live intentionally, I actually have to put a priority on it. It's not going to happen just because I know I should, or, that was a good talking point. The truth is, it's going to happen when I purpose for it to happen.
Right.
All right. And so when you track and evaluate, what that means is this: how are we doing with our spending? How are we doing with our saving? How are we doing with our giving?
Oh, good. I've been waiting for Jeremy to pipe in because, this is what he does for a living.
Oh, good. We got somebody who knows what they're talking about on the show.
He
Good.
said, being intentional means giving to God from your means first, and also means it needs to be enough of a sacrifice to show reliance on God since everything comes from Him anyway. Boom. I like that.
Well, now he started meddling. Now we're on to giving, because what you just said is that my giving reflects whether or not I truly rely on God,
And I love
or
that.
am I relying
No,
upon
this
myself?
is perfect because this reminds me, and I may have talked about this before on the show. I'm not sure, but if I have, I'm talking about it again.
Please do so.
We have a friend. We have a friend, Joe. High fives. We have a friend.
We have a friend.
Yeah.
Hey, one is enough.
And years
Too many.
ago,
Let me tell you.
she taught me a huge lesson because her husband was laid off from his job, and they started looking at their finances and seeing what they could cut back, and they decided right away that the first place they were going to cut back was not giving back to God, that was not what they were going to do, that they were going to cut other areas first and see how things went from there. And thankfully he got another job pretty quickly. But it taught me a huge lesson because she had such great faith, and she was like, no, I'm not cutting giving back to God. That's the last thing I'm cutting.
I will tell you this, and I appreciate that story. Giving really is not so much about, oh, here comes the collection, we better put something in. Giving is a reflection on, you know what? We're giving God our first fruits. We're not waiting until we have something left. We're giving God off the top because we believe that God sustains us, not that we sustain ourselves. That doesn't mean that the Bible is against saving and against investing in that sense of making sure you're being a good steward of his money and what he's blessed you with.
Right, that's responsible.
But
I
it
think we're supposed
is
to be
this
responsible.
idea of, look, God is not going to be a secondary thought. God is my initial. But I love what Jeremy said there with his comment, because giving then is a reflection of my reliance upon God. And I've used as an illustration before the idea that some people give and they treat their finances much like a bowl. And that means this, that a bowl only spills what comes over the top.
Okay.
And so the bowl only gives once the bowl is full. Now, that's a concept that is in contradiction.
Wow.
I know, contradiction to the concept of a strainer. A strainer is not the same as a bowl. A strainer, by design, is meant to allow the water to freely flow through it, right? But here's the cool thing. The strainer is never without water because the strainer is always relying upon the one who is pouring the water into it. Versus the bowl mentality is, yeah, I'll give, but my bowl will be full first. A strainer says, I will give whatever comes through my bowl, my strainer, because I believe I will never be without because of the one who continues to pour forth on me. Now, one of them, well, let me rephrase that. Both of them require faith. One of them requires faith in self. The other one requires the faith in the one who continues to pour. That is God. Do I really believe God is able to continue to pour? And what if he doesn't pour anymore? What if he stops pouring? Does that mean God's not good and therefore I can't trust God anymore? No. What that means is, for whatever reason, to the glory of God, he has poured within you at that moment in your life what he intends for you to have. And he intends for you to respond faithfully with what you have. That's why Paul could say that he's learned to be content with much and he's learned to be content with little. The idea is this: do you and I have that same approach? Are we okay? Because ultimately, it's not about our bowl. It's about the one who pours the water. Now.
Preach.
Anyhow, way to be, Jeremy. Way to turn this into a lesson on giving. Good job,
yes.
buddy.
Thank you,
Actually,
Jeremy.
that was a good comment.
That was awesome.
And
we appreciate all the comments.
If you disagree with us, please hold your comments. We're not really interested. No, I'm teasing. Obviously, we continue to check the show notes and the comments once the show is over. So we want to encourage you to continue to leave comments below this video. We would love to hear what you have to say. Love to hear your ideas about living intentionally when it comes to the subject of finances.
Robert said he loves the bowl/strainer illustration.
Hey, you feel free to use that, man. I'm not even sure if that came from me or where it came from, but I have really thought it spoke to me in the question of, am I a bowl or am I a strainer? So
I've never thought that, I can honestly say.
Anyhow, there you go.
Maybe I will from now on.
You will from now on.
All right, well, hey, look, we are coming up on no, we're not. We might be over 30 minutes.
We're 32 minutes and 40-something seconds.
My tracker stopped. I realized it was just stuck on 29:45.
So why don't we go ahead and close out the show again?
And I just want everybody to know that Joe has grown a lot when it comes to finances.
I really have. I mean, I'm as scared to spend now based upon the fact that Erin will give me a earful. So I just really have come a long way.
Hey, tell the truth now. Tell the truth.
It's not as bad as I made it sound. Is that what you want me to say?
No, that's not accurate.
Never mind.
You've just come a long way.
I've come a long way. But I've got a long way to go. I want to make sure that my finances show that I'm being intentionally God's man and leading my family intentionally in that direction. I know Erin does too, and she does a good job with that. She does a really good job with that. So we like to have fun here. And we hope and pray this show has been a blessing to you. So if it has, make sure you go and find us on your podcast channel and download us. But like us, download us. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave a review, because the more reviews you get, the more downloads you get, the higher up you move. And it's not about the show going up high. It's about the idea of us being able to reach individuals that we might not otherwise reach because they would see us higher in the search. So anyhow, thank you again for tuning in. We want to obviously again thank the folks over at the lightnetwork.tv.
Thank you, Light Network.
And invite you to go to the lightnetwork.tv to check out the family of podcasts there. Check us out on Facebook. Those of you who are watching live right now, thank you for doing that. We're also on Twitter and Instagram and Argos. I'm going to slip that in there.
Oh, look at you.
Argos. If you don't know what that is, check it out. I think you might enjoy it. Anyhow.
Spelled Aggos. Just kidding. Hang on. I got it right there.
You got a sticker.
Oh, where is
I have
it?
a sticker right
there it is.
here.
Where'd
Argos.
mine go?
Right there. There it is. See, now you know the back of our computers, what they look like.
Our 15-year-old stole it from me.
Uh-huh. I guess that just means that they're going to have to give us a shout out. Actually, I'll just post this video on their social networking site and let them say, hey, listen to the Hey Joe show.
There you go.
Anyhow, that's all we got for tonight. We'll pick it up another time. I would say next week. I intend for next week, but for some reason, Sundays, I don't know what happens.
Sunday's Easter, and
That's
it's the
true.
end of Lads to Leaders.
How about this?
I have a feeling
There'll be no show next week.
I have a feeling that we're going to be like this after Lads to Leaders.
Hey, I'm excited about Last Leaders. If those of you who are going, I hope you'll say hello to us. We don't have a booth this year. One of these days, we need to go live from Last Leaders.
Oh, and all of our spare time while we're there.
That's right. We need to forget that we're parents and just be radio personality. That's what we need to be. So anyhow, thank you for tuning in tonight. We're going to go ahead and cut it out. So we are out.
Please hang up and try again.